Joining us now, Mark McKinnon, former advisor to George W. Bush and John McCain. It's great to see you. Mark, where does this end? This is endless. They've already confiscated the machines because they can no longer be used in the next election since they've now been, quote, tampered with. They've been opened by unverified people.
Yeah, well, it's endless because they want it to be endless, because they're not finding any examples of systemic voter fraud. The greatest fraud in American politics right now, Andrea, is this notion that there's systemic voter fraud. There is none. There simply is no evidence. Republicans and Trump supporters have had more than 6 months, millions of dollars, court cases. The Texas Attorney General, who, took the case to the Supreme Court to try and overturn the election, spent 22,000 man hours trying to find voter fraud in Texas. They found 16 bad addresses. That's 130 man hours per bad address. So the fact is, it doesn't exist. There's no examples of it. And to the extent it happens at all, it's usually just something accidental. Somebody didn't know what they were doing. They had a bad address or were voting and didn't realize that they were on parole and that was a violation. But nothing systemic anywhere.
And you see this now in Arizona and Texas Republicans doubling down on voting restrictions in response to the false claims of voter fraud. Does it seem like the Trump-allied wing of the party is going away anytime soon, or is this going to run all the way through 2022 and 24?
Oh, no question. I'd say the Trump wing of the party is stronger than ever before. But it is a purity test now. In order to be a Republican, particularly any Republican running for office, you have to meet the litmus test. And the main feature, Exhibit A of the litmus test, is you must say that the election was a fraud. So in order to run for office, in order to be a Republican in good standing, you have to lie about the last election. And that means we're getting a whole field of candidates in the Republican Party who are not telling the truth. And that's a huge problem for the future of the Republican Party.
And are primarying people like Lisa Murkowski, Jim Lankford, who stood up to the president. And one person who represents the other wing of the party is Liz Cheney. There's a new excerpt from the upcoming book from Phil Rucker and Carol Leonnig, I Alone Can Fix It. Cheney describing being with Jim Jordan on the House floor on January 6th during the siege, saying, I'm standing in the aisle, and he said, we need to get the ladies away from the aisle. Let me help you. I smacked his hand away and told him, get away from me. You effing did this. So she's now being challenged by, half a dozen or more Republicans in Wyoming.
Well, and that sort of says everything you need to know about where the Republican is. The notion that Liz Cheney, who has been such a solid conservative in the Republican Party and number 3 in leadership, would be bounced out of her chair simply for defending the Constitution of the United States, suggests that the Republican Party is clawing their way to the bottom and getting there fast.
Is there anything that she or others like her can do to try to fight this off?
Well, Andrea, I think that this election fraud notion is one of the greatest violations of public trust in the history of the country, and so dangerous to our democracy that I think that, I really appreciate what Liz Cheney is doing and others who are willing to stand up despite the repercussions from people like Donald Trump. I just think everybody, Liz Cheney, anybody who really believes in America and the Constitution has got to just keep banging this drum as loudly as we can.
Mark McKinnon, as always, thank you. Thanks so much.